Beach is a senior studying government politics and international business. He also serves as the president of the Omicron Delta Kappa National Leadership Honor Society at UMD and is an SGA legislator representing our off-campus community. So give a round of applause for Jacob and welcome him.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, AJ, for the very kind introduction. I'm just going to go ahead and break down the format of tonight's debate. We'll be doing 45 minutes of general questions. At the end of that time, we will have audience questions. We have index cards that will be sort of dispersed throughout the audience. If you want to participate in the audience questions, you can go ahead and write down a question on that card and we will collect them. You can also tweet the hashtag CPDebate, and we'll also be looking at those options. There will be 4 main questions tonight. We'll go down the row. Every candidate will answer each of these 4 questions, and we'll have a specific question for each of our candidates at the end of that time. With that said, I'd like to start with our opening statements. We're going to allow 90 seconds for opening statements, 90 seconds for each question, and 30 seconds for any rebuttal if a candidate is mentioned or another candidate's answer. But with that, we'll go ahead and start with statements, and let's go right down the line. Mr. Chen.
Thank you. My name is Tom Chen. Thank you so much for inviting me here. And I just want you to know, and this is finally university in the nation. And I come in here, my background is I come in here from China 34 years ago. And when I come in here, as my uncle bought me an airplane ticket, I come in here to the United States. And we were working so hard and like a lot of American people. So we saved money and paid back to my uncle to the airplane ticket. And through the few years, we opened up a restaurant to the metropolitan area. I moved back to City College about 22 years ago. I love it. I love the student. I love the University of Maryland. I love the community. So I sort of settled down here. So, and I opened the restaurant in here in the college park, right across the street from the landmark. Then after that, I slowly find out that housing investment is good. Let me try one. So this is my first invest real estate in College Park as well. So that's why I started from there. Is the time up?
Yep, 5 seconds.
Okay. So I thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, Mayor Wojahn.
Thank you, Jacob. It's great to be here. It's great to see so many familiar faces. And I want to thank the SGA and Chris and Georgie for putting this together. And I'm glad that this is the first time we've ever done a forum like this on campus, and it's a great step. One thing that's been a highlight of my time as mayor so far, I should, by the way, mention that my name is Patrick Wojahn. I'm the current mayor of College Park, running for a second term. And one of the things that I've been most proud of is bringing people together to handle and tackle some of the thorny issues that we face as a city. And I've been very proud of the partnership that we have had with our student leadership in tackling some of these issues. There have been so many years where, as a city, we've had long-term residents in one camp, and we've had students in one camp, and they don't really talk with each other. They talk at each other, and nothing ever gets solved. In the last few years, and when I was on council, I first started working on creating a committee to tackle some of these issues and bringing people together. We call it the Neighborhood Stabilization and Quality of Life Task Force, so a bit of a mouthful of a name, but now it's called the Neighborhood Quality of Life Committee, and bringing together these different parties and tackling some of these thorny issues. Working together, we found win-win situations that have really helped, like creating the on-campus ISC tailgates that have both solved the problem of having a lot of parties in the neighborhood, and also giving students a chance to party on campus. So looking forward to talking more.
Alrighty, and just, for your notes, keep an eye down here on Chris. He's going to give you a 2, which is for 20 seconds, and then he'll count down from 10. Sorry, I should clarify that.
Thank you.
We'll go next to Councilwoman Cook.
Oh, thank you. Can everybody hear me? Okay, I want to thank everybody for coming here tonight. This is a wonderful building, and this is a beautiful room to be in with all of you. if you don't mind, I'm going to stand up. I was an instructor for many, many years and probably will be an instructor again soon, so I feel more comfortable when I'm standing. I'm one of the District 4 council members. If you don't know where District 4 is, that's anywhere up from Cherry Hill down to 193 over to the west, which is College Park Woods and Crystal Springs and some little neighborhoods in between, and part of the university. However, I unfortunately don't have the opportunity to talk to many of you because we as candidates are not allowed on campus to just even to discuss some of these issues. But anyway, that's not what I want to talk to you about tonight. I wanted to tell you that my husband and I came here 17 years ago. We moved into the Cherry Hill neighborhood, which is up near Home Depot. We bought a little home there. We liked that neighborhood so much that when a larger home came available, we moved in there. And now we have the best of all worlds. We have the urban side, which with the shopping center, 495, and we back up on the park, so we get all the wildlife. So we are very happy to be here. I've been, since I've been in the city, I've been the chair of several different committees, including the chair of the Advisory Planning Commission, the chair of the Committee for a Better Environment. I've been the coordinator of the Neighborhood Watch for Cherry Hill Road. And what's that? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I got to get the hang of this. Thank you.
And Ms. Malsawma.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Zari Malsawma, but I go by Zari. Makes it easy for everyone, including myself. My family and I immigrated to the United States from India in 1973, and we became naturalized citizens in 1984. I am delighted to be on the list of mayoral candidates this year. And my vision for College Park is for this city to become a city where no evil can thrive. A city where God's name is hallowed, His kingdom comes, and His will is done. A city like none has ever been. I am convinced that if people were to know that there is an all-knowing, always present, and completely just God who keeps us accountable for everything that we say and do, we would have the best deterrent against evil and the greatest incentive to do good. I believe that God has been preparing me to run for mayor of College Park since 2006 when a neighbor's kid came and pulled a gun on my brother. After that, I spearheaded a successful neighborhood watch program for College Park Woods, where I live. You can read more about my background. I have a brochure out there. There are 7 goals I would work hard to achieve as mayor. 1, restore College Park residents' trust in the mayor and council. Develop a strong identity for the city of College Park and implement a city-university partnership that truly works for everyone. And my time is up. Thank you.
All right, to make this a little bit easier, I think we're going to have Chris sort of scoot down to your side there.
Yeah.
Be right in front of you.
Thank you.
First time we're doing this, ladies and gentlemen. So, like I said, we'll get right into the questions. Ask that you hold your applause until sort of the end from here on out. But we'll just simply go down the line. When one candidate is finished, feel free, next candidate, go ahead and start your time. Our first question tonight. Earlier this semester, an increased number of student disturbances in the community reminded us all of the unique challenge we face in striking a balance between serving both university students and city residents. In your opinion, what is the ideal balance in serving these two groups? Are we a college town, a city that happens to have a college, or something altogether different? Mr. Chen.
Thank you for the question. I think the city needs to work with the university mayor and students and residents as well. And I'm here for 22 years, and it's so poor connected. And I think we can do much better. It's every time like a lot of codes come and they like make it worse, so divides for the students and the community. And we need a better communication between city and university, and there's for me, and I just feel so bad for the students, and they just be punished after punished. People keep talking to what would the university mayor, what would the students, they just keep talking and no action. And I'm here to help the students with the city and community work together. I will get it done. Thank you.
I just stand up. It seems to be the thing to do.
Just asking your applause from here on up until the end to make this go a little bit faster.
Sure. So it's great. It's great that you asked that question. And this evening, actually, before I came here, I was at the celebration for the 20th anniversary of the College Park City University Partnership, which is an organization that sort of coordinates the partnership and the joint efforts between the city and the university. And that is an organization that's working on exactly the type of communication that Mr. Chen was just talking about. And we made a lot of progress in that regard. I'm proud that in the last year, for the first time, that I personally worked together with Mr. Wojahn and your president, SGA president, AJ Pruitt, in bringing an on-campus town hall, a town hall forum, bringing the whole city council and myself on campus for the first time to hear what students had to say and to really increase that level of communication with you all. But we, to me, what I talked about at the CP Cup, the partnership event, was that we are a symbiosis. We benefit from the university as a city around it, and the university benefits from us. The more that we can communicate, the more that we can collaborate, the more that we can work together, we do rise and fall together, and the more that we can do that, the better. It's all 20 seconds. Okay. So that building that partnership, that's what I want to continue to focus on. Finding win-win situations where we work together with the students to find alternatives to these challenges. As I mentioned before, we were butting heads for so many years. When I first got on council, we were butting heads, and now we finally come together to find these, to work to create these solutions.
And I just asked that you hold applause.
Okay, thank you for the question. This is a question, the residents, the long-term residents of College Park often ask. Are we a city with a university in it, or are we a university with a city in it? Nicely put. And that's a hard one to say. I have to say that I believe that we are a city and we have a university in it. But that does not mean that we don't work closely with the university and hope that they will work closely with us. Now, Mr. Wojahn brought up the CP Cup, which is the College Park City University Partnership, which has done a wonderful job in bringing the two parties together. However, we still have a long way to go. And I would like to see it on a more personal level as well. I was encouraging some young women and men in the audience tonight to become members of certain committees that we have with the city, because that is how, a lot of residents will have exposure to you as students and as representatives of the University of Maryland. And you will have exposure to the residents of College Park, because I think that's sadly lacking. Unless you come out into the community or we're allowed on campus, we're not going to be able to have that one-on-one conversation that we need to have. Thank you, Mr. Wojahn.
You got 10 seconds.
Oh, I don't know what to tell you.
All right, and with the addition of Mayor Wojahn in this case, you do have access to a 30-second rebuttal if you'd like to use it.
I don't really know if I think he was just mentioning something I said, so that's fine. Totally cool. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll continue down the line here.
I like the idea of having a city and university partnership, but the way it has been implemented to me has been a real disappointment, because I don't see what I'd like to see with that partnership. What I see is a lot of buildings going up, and I see that the university is benefiting a lot more than the city in this partnership so far. What I would like to see is more students and residents coming together and working together under a vision. I don't see a symbiotic relationship here. I see, what I would like to see is a partnership where the university is an entity all its own, and so is the city. There are two separate entities that can work together, But so far, I have not seen the partnership working out mutually beneficially for both the city and the residents, and the university. So what I'd like to see is a true partnership, not just the city becoming subsumed by the university and drawing its identity from the university. I'd like to see two separate entities but working together for mutual benefit. And we can talk more about that, but I'm out of time.
All right, so we'll move on to our second question, and we'll start with Ms. Malsawma, and then we'll move back towards me this way. This question kind of continues along the same lines, but it's a little bit deeper when looking at our strategic goals as a city. College Park has 10 strategic goals, actually, and the number one goal is one College Park. It's this idea of collaboration between the city and between the university. Examples of these include the IFC tailgate that happens in the fall, Milk Boy Art House, that construction project, as well as the Baltimore Avenue corridor development. To what extent should College Park be autonomous, and to what extent are we a partner with the university? Some of you touched on this, some of you not quite. So feel free and use this time to address them.
I think so far, what I have seen is everything happening in the university and very little happening in the city. And what I would like to see is a real partnership, as I said before. The university has a lot of resources. We have departments of architecture, urban planning, so on and so forth. I would love to see the students in those departments help plan the development of the Route 1 corridor. Right now we have a lot of buildings going up. We don't know who's coming to use them. The city itself is struggling with getting enough high school space for students. It is estimated that we'll be running out of space for high school students soon. And the high school students, the high schools that we have now are falling apart. High Point High School has needed renovation for 15 years and nothing is happening. So I would like to see the university help us address these problems and not keep building along the Route 1 corridor that creates so many problems with transportation. And what I'd like to see is some really innovative solutions to that. And the Department of Civil Engineering, Transportation, Traffic should be able to help us with that. I'd like to see that.
Could you please repeat the question?
Happily. So one of our 10 strategic goals, number one goal actually, is one College Park. And we've seen this in a number of ways, IFC tailgate, Milk Boy Art House, and the Baltimore Avenue corridor development. To what extent should College Park be an autonomous city when looking at some of these partnerships? And to what extent are we partnering with the university or allowing the university to lead?
That's a very good question. Well, I would say that the city is an autonomous body. We should, of course, as my colleague said here, partner with the university, obviously, because you're here and you have a lot of assets that we don't have, and we could certainly take advantage of them and have taken advantage of them in the past. I could go into it, but I won't do it now because Chris is timing me. And so I think that we have to continue that relationship. However, I think it's very important for the university to remember that we are an autonomous body and that we have residents to answer to. And that's what we need to do, and we need to represent them well. And some of you are, well, I think all of you are in one way or another our constituents as well. Unfortunately, again, I'm going to say we don't have the opportunity to speak with you unless you're, off the campus. Is that it? Okay. I don't get this. I did a forum the other night. I didn't have any problem whatsoever. Okay. So anyway, I just want to welcome all of you to, like I said, to join some of our committees, and I hope that the city will take advantage of you as well, because that's what we should do, especially when we do have a School of Architecture and, as Zari said, a School of Engineering. We need to take advantage of your expertise. And I think you can also learn something from us. Thank you.
Okay. So, of course, legally, I mean, the city is an independent body. We have our own government. We're not beholden to the university in any way. We make our own decisions. But we ignore the university at our own peril. And we're really, when there's this gigantic thing with a lot of money and a lot of resources that's within our city, we need to partner with it. I mean, we're essentially a company town in some ways. If we were to shut down the university and say we're not going to work with you, then that would be to their detriment. We are working with the university, and let me just give you some examples. You all probably know about the hotel that just opened up. That when we do surveys, time and time again, things that city residents say that they want are high quality restaurants, are good places that they can go to, nice amenities. We now have for the first time, two high quality restaurants, white tablecloth, fancy places you would bring a date to, go for an anniversary dinner, in College Park. And the reason why is because the university worked on bringing in David Hillman and Southern Management and getting them to take a risk and invest in College Park. The city put no subsidy or any sort of resources directly into that. That was all their risk. Another example, we're working with the university on sustainability right now. And we have my predecessor, Andy Fellows, is now working for the university, providing guidance on sustainability. We're working with the students on sustainability too. A couple weeks ago, the council decided not to move forward on a city ordinance to ban styrofoam and to allow enforcement of that. When I heard about that, I immediately contacted Will Faber from the Student Government Association and said we need to work together on figuring out how much of a problem this is, so what we can do to enforce it. Thanks.
I think the city should partnership with the University of Maryland, and how they're going to do that. And like I said earlier, they just talking and no action. And I went to the meeting and I see the radio, tune on the city radio, and every time the University of Maryland wants to do something, for example, tailgate or other stuff, the city be on top of the students, top of the university. And I think the city need to be changed that, and it's very important because we in one city, we need to work together to get better understanding for everyone, because this city is rebuilt by students, by University of Maryland. City did not build for the city for you. City did not do nothing for you. You guys did that for the University of Maryland, for the City College Park. I want to say thank you, appreciate that for bringing all the good stuff in here. Thank you.
All right, I just want to take a moment too to remind the audience, keep in mind you can submit questions. We're coming up, we're about halfway through the questions here. So look for an index card that should be distributed. Go ahead and write that question out. We'll be collecting them pretty shortly.
Bring the index cards to me.
Bring the index cards to Chris right up here in the front row. Okay, thank you, Chris. All right, we're going to start with Mr. Chen and then move back down the line on this third question here.
Me?
Yep.
How's that? Okay.
So the state of Maryland requires no excuse to obtain an absentee ballot, but College Park limits absentee voting to select cases. Examples being an accident, illness that prevents you from getting to the polls, you might be confined to an institution, death or serious illness of a loved one, or perhaps you're a student out of state. Is it time for this policy to change? Should College Park be offering no excuse absentee voting?
I think that should change to be easier for people to have absentee ballots to lead. It's very important because when they need the service, they need it. And I think the law is getting kind of tougher for the absentee ballots. I think they should release that and to be easier for helping for the people's need for absentee ballots. Thank you.
The answer to that question is absolutely we should do it. We've already been exploring it. Unfortunately, we already consulted with our Board of Election Supervisors to talk about no excuse absentee voting. And we're looking at some reforms that we want to put in place in the next term, and I'm committed to seeing some of these things happening. And no excuse absentee voting. We should have early voting. A lot of other municipalities around here have early voting. We should. Another reform I want to explore is allowing anybody, now that we have electronic voting machines, anybody who wants to should be able to vote at either of our two polling places. Believe it or not, one of our polling places, the polling place that the District 1 and 4 people vote in is actually located in District 2, and District 2 people have to go all the way down to City Hall, which doesn't make sense, and I think that's something that we can fix before the next election.
Well, that's an interesting question, because it's been one that I've been mulling over for the last couple of days, and I'll tell you why I've been thinking about this. I have some elderly neighbors. They're about 80 years old. One of them called me up the other day and said, Mary, I have this letter here, and I don't know what it is. And I went over there to his house to see what it was. Well, it was a absentee ballot. Evidently, a candidate had gone to this person's house. This person doesn't speak English well, and neither does his wife. And this candidate had helped them evidently, or filled out a form so that, to get an absentee ballot. Well, this person, my neighbor, had no clue what it was about. And so anyway, they got the absentee ballot back, and I was looking at it and I thought, wow, this is an excellent opportunity for me to tell these people exactly how to vote. Yes, it's true, they don't speak English very well. Yes, I could force them to possibly, read, one of the candidates', information guides, which they would never do. But I said, this is what could happen repeatedly throughout College Park with our older neighbors, and this is something we need to take into account as we start to explore this. Now, I'm not saying no excuse absentee ballots is a bad thing, but I think we do have to do our due diligence and explore this before we go on. And then as far as early voting, I have to agree that perhaps that would be a good idea because our voting time is not conducive to those who are working. Thank you.
I'm all for citizens exercising their right to vote and to vote knowledgeably. I'm all for encouraging people to vote as often as they can possibly vote. But I also know that we need some checks and balances to make sure that there's no voting fraud involved voting in the process. And so I would like to explore that, as Mary says, before we say yes, let's make it easier to have absentee voting. Citizenship is a privilege, a right, and it has responsibilities. And I'm very, very disappointed with what the mayor and council tried to do this past summer to pass the non-citizen voting measure. And I would like to see that not come up again ever. And I would like to see more responsibility in how we exercise our citizenship rights and responsibilities, and also how we help incorporate our non-citizen neighbors into the life of our community.
All right. In 2005, the City Council adopted a rent stabilization ordinance to protect tenants from unwarranted rent increases. The measure was extended in 2009, 2012, and 2013. Then in 2014, the ordinance was sunset by the City Council. As College Park continues to grow, we are pricing people, especially students, out of the city. Is it time to reinstate rent stabilization or some other similar policy? And we'll start with Ms. Malsawma at the end of the table.
Let me just make sure I got the question correct. Am I for or against rent stabilization? Is that what you're asking?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure that rent stabilization will be helpful to everyone, including the students who are affected. There may be, I think there needs to be competition among landlords that will help the rent manageable for students. This is not, I will confess that this is not something I'm very knowledgeable about, but if the rent for the new apartment buildings that are going up is so much higher than those that are being offered by the owners of residences in the city, then we need to really look at that and see how they can be competitive, or how we can bring the high-rise building rates down to be competitive for so that the more students can afford those. So I'm all for competition, and what we need to do to make the competition fair is what I would vote for.
Hey, thank you. Sorry for mentioning, I'm also for competition, but what is happening in the city of College Park, I was not on the council at that time when they let this sunset, but I was for letting it sunset because what was unfair was that those high rises could continue to charge you, very large rents. That wasn't fair to the landlords that were accused of charging the highest rents. So I think that if we are going to explore rent stabilization again, we have to look at it across the board. And I think the bottom line is, don't we want more affordable housing for students? Because I was a student once. There is no way in God's earth I could afford to live in one of these apartment buildings. I would have to live in a house in a neighborhood. And I know that someone was telling me earlier, before coming in here today, that their friends actually couldn't even find a place to live here in College Park that was affordable, and that's a shame. So those students went somewhere else because they couldn't find a home. And I think that as we do our due diligence, we can find a solution to this. Thank you.
So I was opposed to allowing the rent stabilization program to sunset. And I voted against it and was not on the prevailing side of that vote. But the reason why, and I agree, it wasn't perfect, but it did allow, it was a tool for us to provide for some affordable housing in the neighborhoods. It was also a tool for us to help ensure a balance between rental properties and owner-occupied properties within our neighborhoods. But talking more broadly about affordable housing for students, when I was chair of the Neighborhood Quality of Life Committee, one of the subcommittees that I also chaired was one on looking at the issue of affordable housing for students, because I think making sure that students have access to not just affordable housing but a quality affordable housing is one of our greatest challenges right now. In the city, and it continues to be a challenge. It's not an easy answer either. I think there are things that we can look at. Right now, the county is doing a study, a review of housing affordability across the county. It's looking more at just student housing, but student housing is definitely a piece of that. We are looking at there is an affordable housing opportunity that has proposed to come forward in the Branchville area. We can work with developers like that to try to it's not perfect the way it's been proposed, but we can work with developers to try to provide that affordable housing. I think we should also look at cooperative housing. I don't know if anybody here is from the cooperative housing program at the University of Maryland, but I think we can work with that and continue to grow it and expand it.
I'm here for 22 years. I see the full mayor, includes the current mayor here. Full mayor. Talk about the rent control, those stuff, and this is so, let me just say, so ridiculous. They put the landlord restrict for the rent control. They give it to high rise everything they want. And they have a law there, but they don't follow the law. It's discriminated for students. They want to do that for rent control to one purpose, kicking all the students out of here, the Old Towns area. They do that all the time. This is not acceptable and not behave. They need to behave themselves for the city governments. And no one want to say it, I want to say it in here. Because I say it on the city hall, I get punished. Punished after punished for 22 years. So I thank you for your question for that. I was part of this homeowner association. We were fighting for their law, for rent control law. Each house, for example, if I own a 4 house, I need to come up $4,000. If you own a 10 house, you need to come up $10,000. We need to hire the best attorney we could to fight for the city. And it's so ridiculous, and they keep discriminate on and on and on to the students. This is government need to behave themselves. It's not for you because you live there and you keep torture the students. They need to stop it. If not, they see the student like an ATM machine. They need to stop that. Okay? Ticket after ticket is a small, let me say that, small, stupid violation, ticket after ticket. We need to focus on real crime. Robbery, assault, murder, sexual harassment. We need to focus on real crime.
That's
not.
That's fine.
Thank you. We need to change. We cannot go for the same pattern. It's not working.
That's time.
Thank you.
Mayor Wojahn, you were cited in the question. Would you like to rebut for 30 seconds?
Yeah, I would like actually thank you for the opportunity because Mr. Chen brought up the city's code enforcement. And code enforcement is a tool for the students because a lot of students live in substandard housing. I heard just last week, I saw somebody posted up on Instagram some pictures of one of our, I won't mention the housing development in particular, but some substandard conditions at one of our housing projects here in the city. What I did was I immediately contacted that person via Instagram, put them in touch with our code enforcement and said, we are here as a tool for you. Mr. Chen might call these victimless crimes, but you all are the victims of these crimes. When your houses are not being maintained to an acceptable level, when you can't live in them because there's conditions like black mold and rodents and other problems, then you can rely on the city to come with you. These are not victimless crimes.
That is time. All right. Where we go, and we have 4 final questions, one for each of our candidates. These are targeted for each candidate and frankly a little more tough and based on your background and actions. So we'll start here with Mr. Chen, and we'll sort of move down the line. September 25th Diamondback article mentioned your interest in preserving student interests. However, there were discussions surrounding a September 2015 amendment to Declaration of Covenants that suggested otherwise. The discussion during council proceedings indicated that up to 20 people were living in one of your properties, while the city had legally limited the number that could live there to 16. Other similar concerns have emerged regarding standard of living experienced by student tenants in some of your properties throughout the campaign. How can students be sure that you have their backs?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. If you see, I'm here for 22 years. Since the beginning, as a landlord, we do everything by the code enforcement. They come in for inspect the place, everything, make sure the safety concerns number one. That's why I bought my first building. I want to guss everything up. That's 22 years ago. I will put everything up to the grade. Put a fire sprinkler, fire alarm, everything up to the grade, you name it. Everything up to the grade. The student concern is my concern. Because we're doing in that type of business, we need to be concerned about the safety first. And if you talk about the 22 people or you name it, if you go to any house in downtown or maybe off downtown area, you go find 0.1 house for me. The house limit is 5. Every one of them over 5, 6, 7. They all the same. It doesn't matter who you are. They all are in the same, but they all follow the law and maybe safety. Smoke alarm, make sure working, everything, make sure it's working properly. That's why we have a city code coming here to inspect the house. Make sure the house is safety. That's why we get the rental license. Thank you.
All right, Mayor Wojahn. In September, the City Council voted to allow non-citizen voting in College Park. Initially thought to have passed, the Council soon discovered that the vote did not meet the newly amended threshold of 6 votes, a change that was made in the city charter back over the summer. What do you say to those voters that are concerned that you do not know the very rules and standard by which our city is run?
Well, and you know, I accept my share of responsibility for what happened with that whole series of events, and apologize, and I still apologize on behalf of myself and on behalf of the city council and the whole city, and that happened. We are taking steps to make sure that nothing like that ever happens again. We've learned our lessons. That we really need to do our due diligence and make sure that our staff does their due diligence to make sure that things like that don't happen again, that we understand fully the procedures that are in place, that we do a thorough legal review of every decision before we make it. We should have taken a step back. That whole thing didn't move very quickly, although there was a lot of discussion in the community about it and a lot of opportunities to talk about it. What we didn't do is do our due diligence as a council. And frankly, we relied too heavily on our staff. And we should, as a council and as elected officials, take it more upon ourselves to make sure that we're following the proper procedures. I assure you, I promise you that if I'm reelected, nothing like that will happen in the next term. I will do personally my due diligence to make sure of that.
Councilwoman Cook, kind of along similar lines here, you two were present for amending the city charter this summer, which later thwarted this non-citizen voting rights vote in September. And in fact, you did support the changes to the charter. Why did you not intervene after the vote in September, and how can voters rest assured knowing that you're fully prepared to enforce our charter?
Okay, I'm a little bit confused. I wasn't in support of it.
I'm not talking about the non-citizens voting
I'm sorry.
bill. I'm talking about the charter, right? The charter, which you voted for, which changed the threshold.
Yes.
Why did you not, raise concerns about this new threshold when it clearly did not meet the 6-vote threshold after the vote in September?
Okay, I see what your question is. Okay, thank you. I honestly forgot. Like everybody on the city council forgot. Like the city manager forgot. Like the lawyer forgot. I'll take my share of the responsibility. I actually was the person who asked that the charter be changed during a short process to change some administrative items in the charter. It was brought up that the city manager would only be let go if there was a supermajority of 6 votes. At that time, I thought it was imperative then that all city charter amendments needed to have 6 votes, a supermajority, and I was never told that was impossible to do that. We didn't get good counsel, unfortunately, from our attorney. So when we went forward with this vote, I think that everybody was so concerned about what was happening and how our community was torn apart that I honestly forgot. But I also think that we paid, some people in our staff large amounts of money to help us to, make sure that these kinds of things don't happen. And unfortunately, they still did happen. And thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. And finally, Ms. Malsawma, your question. The aforementioned September 25th Diamondback article has you quoted as saying that God has led you to run and that you want to see College Park become a city where, quote, God's name is hallowed, his kingdom come, his will be done. I believe you said this again earlier tonight. What would you say to those voters that are concerned by this blurring of church and state?
My understanding of separation of church and state is not so that people can be kept from practicing their faith in government, but that the government does not go around building churches and paying people for performing religious duties in their performance of governmental jobs. When I say that my vision is to have a city, or to work towards a city where God's name is hallowed, his kingdom comes, and his will is done, I am saying let us affirm all that is good, and let us resist all that is evil. I don't think anybody would disagree with that goal, and I don't see a conflict between church and state in that vision. Thank you.
All right, we're going to go to some audience questions here. We've got a bunch, and the first couple are pretty straightforward, so we're going to limit these first two to 30-second responses, but we'll just go down the line and then back. Our first question, will you fight for a student seat on the College Park City-University partnership? 30 seconds, Mr. Chen.
Can you repeat the question again, please?
Yes. Will you fight for a student seat on the College Park City-University partnership?
Yes, I will. And I think that the city needs to get more involved for the university level, especially with the student need, and this is very important. And I think they need it. It's very important.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
I think it's a great idea. I serve on the City University Partnership Board right now. I think it's something that I can explore with my colleagues. I'd be willing to fight for it and bring it up. And I think, the City University Partnership, as I mentioned before, is the thing that brings that symbiosis together in College Park. So I think it would be great to have the students' voice there.
Thank you. I would certainly fight for a student representative on CP Cup. However, at the same time, I would like to fight for more representation of residents, long-term residents for CP Cup, because even though we do have what are termed as city representatives, I think that we need more people from the different districts to represent the different issues that are we find in those districts. Thank you.
I would say equal representation for both residents and the university, the students, staff, faculty. I would like to see a representative from each of those groups on the CP Cup.
All right, and we'll start with Ms. Malsawma and then come back this way. Again, this will be a 30-second question. Do you support raising taxes to provide more city services?
No, I'm not in favor of raising taxes. I believe we can work together as communities. I'm really for establishing a very strong identity for the city, where people are committed to their city and are willing to work together. I don't think we need to fund everything by raising taxes. I think we can also be more frugal or more responsible with the way we spend our resources. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. No, I am not in favor of raising taxes, at least at this time. We had the opportunity to lower taxes this year. We did not do that. Because of the house assessments, it didn't look like we were keeping our tax rate the same, but in all reality, we could have lowered our tax rate and given some of the money back to the full-time residents. I'm sorry, I forgot what the rest of your question was.
I think you answered it.
Okay, thank you.
Well, at this point, I'll say no, but I think the answer is it depends. There's times when, and there have been times in the past when I have supported an increase in taxes, when the residents have come and significantly and substantially supported. For example, in one of my first term on council, we increased taxes to increase police presence because there were dozens of people lined up at the city council meeting who were asking for us to do that. So I think there are occasions when we do raise taxes, when we can raise taxes. I think at this point, we have enough development in the city that we're increasing our tax base. We can keep on working with that development, and we won't need to, but yeah.
Thank you for the questions. I think this is very good. I think the city, everyone should be cut the tax, not raising tax or hold the tax. We need to cut the tax. Because city have so much revenue coming in, we should cut the tax. We should cut bigly. They have tons commercial on North Wojahn is empty. Been number year. What happens? People don't know what's going on, and people don't know how to run the business. That need to be filled up. We need to talk to the business people. Bring the business back in. It's not acceptable. The Wojahn commercial place shut down for so long and no one coming in.
That is time.
We need to thinking, what's the problem here?
That is time.
You be a leader, you need to figure it out. We need to work with you. It's very important for the business people.
All right,
and the residents.
that is time on the question. We'll go back to a 90-second question here. We'll start with Mr. Chen.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have a plan or vision for how you are going to reduce violence in the city of College Park? 90 seconds.
We need to secure and safe first for the students. It's not acceptable. I can see the more students get killed by the Wojahn. It's terrible. And like I said earlier, people keep talking what they're going to do. There's no action at all. This is not acceptable either for the city College Park. We be a city government, which they should do it better for community, for the students, especially for University of Maryland need. We have over 40,000 people here. And we need better traffic through all the districts, especially with the Wojahns. I come up the plan while I have a first debate on North Association debate. And we need to green space for the public. We don't have that in the green space. We need it badly. We don't have no field, no parkway with small park. Well, I come here 22 years ago, still same. We miss it. The family need it. The student, for example, the parent coming down here, they need to go to the park. We don't have one. I'm sorry, we don't have one. Go to University of Maryland. Go find somewhere else. It's not acceptable. is a very need to focus, special the security, green, traffic. Everyone needs it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, so a couple of things. First, I do think that I was very distressed to hear a couple weeks ago about the shooting on Rhode Island Avenue in Old Town. We do need to work to improve our police protection here in College Park. Right now, the city is undergoing a study, a review. We've had a couple of forums with residents, a couple of focus groups. We did a community survey to look at how we can best improve our police. And to me, one answer is community-oriented policing. We have some community liaison officers right now with our county police who do go out into the community, talk with residents. With our contract police program, I think we could enhance that through by having a greater connection between our contract police and the residents, so that the police know what's happening, the police know where the hotspots for crime are, the police know what areas need attention. And I also think we've been working with the university, again, in collaboration to expand the zone of concurrent jurisdiction. The university has been willing to work with us, and I think we can continue to work with the university to expand the coverage of the University of Maryland Police wherever there's a significant concentration of students all around the city. Some other things that we should continue to look at are cameras. We have a network of cameras around Old Town and around campus right now. I think we can continue to expand that. And I just want to mention quickly, because it's not true at all that the city didn't respond when those deaths happened on Route 1. We haven't responded. We put up walls along Route 1 to stop students from going into the street and jaywalking. That's just simply not true at all.
Well, as a coordinator for Neighborhood Watch, and Zari is as well for her neighborhood, I'm a strong proponent for that, because I think we all need to take personal responsibility for ourselves, and that means university students as well. I don't know if any of you were here, but a few years ago, there was actually a university neighborhood watch in the downtown area that, as students cycle out, that died away. I would like to see that come back. I would like to have a stronger coalition of neighborhood watch communities, because we did have that at one time, and actually Zari was the chair of that. And I think that if we continue to push that, it can be very helpful. In my neighborhood alone, we've had 4 drug dealers. We have gotten rid of 4 drug dealers, and we've done that because the neighbors have been watching out for each other, and we've been calling the police. And luckily, we do have very responsive police officers. And like Mayor Wojahn said, we do have a police study that is coming out next month. I'm very anxious to see what the results are. I'm beginning to change my mind about maybe, what I would like to see in the city. But I won't know until I see the actual study. So I hope that this is something that we can work on together and remind ourselves, it is our responsibility. We have to be aware of our surroundings at all time, and to make sure that our friends and neighbors, are safe, as they get into their homes. Thank you.
I echo what Mary said. I think reducing violence can't be left to just law enforcement, laws. It has to be a community effort, because we who live in the community are responsible for observing safety standards and also working together to look out for one another. When we started Neighborhood Watch in my subdivision of College Park Woods, it was sparked by me taking action, because my neighbor's kid put a gun on my brother, and I felt bad that I didn't know my neighbor well enough to go to her and say, what your son did to. It could have been a really bad situation, but I didn't know her, so I felt really bad about that. That's why I thought we needed to get to know our neighbors so we can work together to build a community that really works, that really looks out for one another. So that's one thing. The other thing was the police presence. At that time, we didn't have, very good relations with the policemen. And soon after that, though, the county police came up with the COPS program, and they had one police officer that was going to be the liaison between the residents and the police department. That still works well, but it needs to be improved. Thank you.
All right, our next question. Many parts of Prince George's County and even parts of College Park are considered food deserts. And the direction that College Park seems to be going in is more expensive boutique restaurants. What will you be doing as mayor to ensure that all residents can access healthy and affordable food? And we'll begin with Ms. Malsawma at the end of the table.
I'm sorry, the premise was that?
Yeah, the premise is that many parts of the county and even parts of College Park are considered food deserts, meaning that there are people that live in areas of the city that simply are not near healthy and affordable food. So what can we do in order to ensure that all residents do have access to healthy and affordable food at local businesses?
Jacob, what's the response time?
90 seconds.
That's a really good question for any community. And, I don't have an easy answer for that, but I think that as a nation that is so wealthy in just about everything, we can definitely find ways to meet the needs of those who need healthy food. But before we do that, though, I think we need to also educate people. If you want healthy food, you can find it. A lot of times we're happy with fast food restaurants. I mean, we grab things on the way. I mean, we don't make enough time to get healthy food and eat healthy food. So I think it's not just a matter of providing sources of healthy food, but it's also a matter of cultivating a desire for healthy food in people. And education, I think, is key to that. And if people really want healthy food, they'll find ways to get it. Thank you.
That's interesting that Zari said that. I think she and I come from a very different perspective. She having grown up in another country, and I have spent several years in the Middle East. I don't think this is a food desert. I think we're pretty lucky. For those who are concerned that it is a food desert, we are going to have a new supermarket coming in at Berwyn Road, and I guess we say Lidl. We say Lidl, PJ? Little. We say L-I-D-L. And that's a German supermarket that will be coming in. And so then I think we'll have shoppers up in the north of the city. We'll have Lidl in the center of the city. And then what my understanding is in the south of the city where Plato's used to be, we aren't supposed to be getting another supermarket, is what I hear. And in addition to that, we still have Giant down in Greenbelt, and we have Whole Foods down in Riverdale. So I think we'll be pretty well covered. Thank you.
Well, I do want to address the idea of a food desert. I think we are getting much better in the city right now. I think in that sense, Ms. Cook is correct. But I do think we still face a challenge around campus. And to me, it's a goal not just for purposes of making sure that students have easy access to high quality, healthy food, but it's also a matter of making it so that everything you have is at your fingertips. When we face a lot of challenges, of course, with traffic on Route 1, and right now we made it recently in the last 15 years or so in College Park much easier for students to live closer to campus, so that they can bike and walk to get to campus with all the new housing that we have. But one thing that's still a big challenge for students is if you don't have a car, it's very difficult to get access to a grocery store. And we have been working on that. I do want to mention one thing that we've improved over the past few years, and that's the access to farmers markets. And I was instrumental in starting the farmers market in North College Park. We also got, as a city, the one started by City Hall. Of course, the university started the one on campus. We're also looking at brick and mortar food locations with the new development that's coming into College Park. We're hoping within the next 5 to 10 years, and I know that a lot of them will be gone by then, but really to address this problem, to actually bring in a new grocery store right within the heart of College Park, so that students will be able to walk or bike to a grocery store.
I think the students know what they like to eat and what they don't want to eat because they are so smart in here, and they they know what kind of food they want to eat, and I think they can get around for the get whatever they need because we have everything in here: the green belt, chicken cherry jewel, and superfood, and the whole food. I think the students are smart enough for choose the food what they want to be eat. It tends to be good, healthy.
All right, this will be our last question. We're going to do 60 seconds here. This comes from an audience member who's kind of concerned about how many young people in their mid to late 20s, they all seem to choose Northern Virginia or maybe even Columbia, Maryland, over College Park. True for many recent graduates as well. And it's sometimes based mostly on the quality of schools, and especially public schools. Does College Park have a plan, and do you have a plan, to attract young people and young families, or is this not a large concern for the city at this time? We'll start with Mr. Chen.
Can you repeat this question one more time, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
It seems that College Park is a problem attracting a lot of young people and young families. They're often looking to move to Northern Virginia or even Columbia, Maryland. Does College Park have a plan to attract young people and young families, or is this not a large concern?
In 22 years, I look closely with the student and communities, and city desperate want the family moving in. And I've been doing a lot of research to see what's the problem here. If the problem is the city gets so tough with the city gets so tough with the students, they freak out, especially in code enforcement. The city hall need to training whoever in charge in the code enforcement. We need to train them, or maybe time to get new director. They make it so divide for the young student. Those student is the root in the city College Park. If I elected for the mayor, I would tell everyone student, I will help them much I can, is not to punish them. I will guideline them. They will come to resident one day. You never know, but we will guideline them to help them to buy housing here, to invest here. It's not just so divided. The student freak out, who want to live here? The city gets so tough, no helping at all. We need the student. I will guideline you, I will helping you. You will maybe with second thought, right, you will buy your home in here, City College Park. You need this.
That is time, Mr. Chen. Thank you.
Because nothing happened in so many years.
Mr. Chen, that is time. Yeah, it is time. Thank you.
Time's good. Thank you, Jacob. So we have been working on bringing in younger families here. As I do every time I run for election, I've been spending the last few months knocking on doors, talking with residents, and I get a good sense of what the demographics are of our city. And I would say that they're starting to get younger. We're getting a lot of younger families moving in here. And part of the reason why is that there's becoming more of a buzz about College Park. It's becoming a good place. People are starting to understand that this is a good place to be. And we're getting those amenities that people want. We're getting the high quality restaurants. We're getting the nice quirky. We're getting the culture, places like Milfoy Art House. It's starting to change. And I think one issue that we still face, one real challenge that we still face, is that of education. Because the Prince George's County Public Schools still have a bad reputation. I think it's worse than what they deserve, but it's still a bad reputation. And we have been working on that. A couple weeks ago, we broke ground on the College Park Academy, which is now starting on Wednesday, actually. Parents of young kids can apply to, and there's a catchment area. 35% of the students are going to be students from the immediate College Park area. So we're working on fixing the education problem as well.
Well, I have to pretty much agree with what Mayor Wojahn said. I, however, having been an academic advisor at Prince George's Community College, see the results of our education system, and I think it's a much more systemic problem, and I don't think it's going to be fixed by just the academy. Although we have some good elementary schools here, I often see that residents are ready to move out of the area when their children get to middle school. And that is truly unfortunate. So if I could rule the world, would like to work very closely with our school superintendent and our school board and to improve schools in the area. And this is not a simple fix. But this is what's really needed, I think, in College Park to attract more families here. We can offer incentives and that will certainly bring some. And I do agree that as I knock on doors, I've also seen new, families that have moved in, and I asked them, why did you move here? And, we do have some amenities. We're near the metro, we're near 495, so we do have some things going for us, definitely. But I do think we have to fix our school system. Thank you.
I agree with Mary and Patrick that education is key to attracting and keeping young families and, growing families in College Park. But as Mary mentioned, it is a systemic problem. The public schools in the city are under the PG County, school system. And as mayor, I don't know what I would be able to do as mayor to fix that problem. But what I would like to experiment with is to make a system or a program for children to learn in an alternative way. We have so much potential here in the city. We have people from all over the world. We can devise or put together a program that, for education for children that they wouldn't be able to get anywhere else. Thank you.
All right, so I want to thank you all for your responses. At this time, I want to thank all of our mayoral candidates, and I invite you to join me in applauding. I know we're going to have a little more time outside for a little meet and greet still. Also, I know Mr. Crisquillo would like to come up. I think we're going to go ahead and get a group picture up here of the candidates. All right. Thank you all very much for coming up tonight. Greatly appreciate your time and participation.